So one of the things we did not cover in Film Riot was the visual effect of Brian's ghost appearing in the hallway and then shooting towards Josh and vanishing. And the reason I did not cover that on the show is because it was an effect that I personally did not do. I called on my friend Paul Griswold to help me out because this effect was a bit above my pay grade, is what I like to say. He uses a program called Softimage, a 3D program, and he uses all these particles and whatnot. So I asked him if he would put together a tutorial for you guys to go in depth on how he did it. And he did. We got over a 20-minute tutorial that goes super in depth with a lot of fantastic information. So if you want to know how it's done, you want to learn this program, grab yourself a coffee, perhaps some popcorn, sit back, relax, and learn. Logo.
Hey you guys, welcome to a Film Riot Extra. This is Paul Griswold with Fusion Digital Productions. A lot of you asked about the very last scene of the Halloween episode of Film Riot where Brian became that ghostly image and went over and ran into Josh. So I thought I'd show you sort of how it was put together, and I'm gonna do this kind of on the fly, so maybe making a few mistakes here and there, so just bear with me. I'm in Softimage, and here you can see I have this is the footage of the hallway, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just sort of line up my scene so that it sort of matches the camera angle that this was taken from. Now you notice the footage looks really small and it's in the center here, and that is partially because it was shot on a 5K Red Epic camera, and my current camera, I believe that I have set for Softimage, is 1920 by 1080, so a 1080p camera. So the aspect ratio is not exactly the same, but for this it doesn't really matter that much. Now I just hit memo cam here, which means if I bring this up, if I start moving my camera around here, which I know it doesn't look like it's moving much, but this is what my camera actually sees. This is just the background. I can just click here and bring it back to where it's supposed to be. All right. So first up, let's set up a projector. We have this of the hallway, and this is just for my reference. I have Ryan set this up with a ghostly fade in of Brian kind of coming at us like that, and that's sort of reference for me, so I can see here where he needs to be. I also have this Brian on alpha alone, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a grid or a flat plane depending on what software you're using. Let me go into just a user view here so you can see. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply a surface to that. Let me go back into modeling mode. And I'm just going to assign a constant surface, which just makes it solid gray. And then I'm going to go into my render tree, and I'm going to apply an image to it. And let's grab a texture. We're going to grab an image, and we're going to apply that to there. And right now it's applying what's called the noIcon.pick, which is nothing. It's just a colored grid that looks like this. And what I'm going to do is I've already loaded up some footage of Brian on alpha with a fractal noise texture over his body that makes it look a little ghostly. But I need some UV coordinates here. So what I need to do is also throw in a texture projection. Where is what do I want? I want a texture map actually, and I want to pick Brian on alpha, and I want the UVs to be X and Z. In Softimage, X and Z are this way, and then Y is up and down. And as you can see, he's kind of squished, if you can see him here. So I should have gotten the aspect ratio from that, but I'm just going to eyeball it for now. So you can see there's Brian on a flat plane, and we're going to use that a little bit later. Let's rotate him up 90 degrees. So what we're going to do is, that's animated, so you'll see there he is moving. We're going to use this as a projector, and we're going to project this image from here onto our cloud. So my camera is where? There it is. Let's move this back. over here, and we'll probably have to scale it way up later. But so there's Brian, and let's go back. This is the user view. This is not a camera view. This just lets me navigate around. This is my camera view, so you can see the grid is right there. All right, so what we need is here, we're going to need a particle emitter. So in order to create that, I'm going to just quickly throw in a sphere, and that'll work fine. And let's just subdivide it a bunch. And move it here, and we can, let's stretch it out a little bit, maybe like that. And then I'm going to go again back into my user view, and I'm going to do some proportional modeling. In Softimage, that's the M key, and I turned on proportional, and it gives me like this brush, and I can do this. All right, actually I want to do this so I can see a little bit better. Maybe we'll do it here. So pull that up, and that'll be sort of where his head is. And let's make this really big. And grab that, and we'll stretch it down here. We'll stretch this out like this. Just sort of a body shape, not anything exact, because it's just going to be emitting particles. It doesn't have to be exactly a perfect copy of his body. But you get the idea. So we got this. And let's actually make it a little thicker so we can get some more particles. And there we go. Brian's got back. All right, need to have a little more space here just so we get some, so I'm going to emit from the volume, I believe. All right, so that's sort of our emitter shape. So we're going to take that, we're going to go into Softimage Ice. And Ice is not a particle system, it's actually more like how Houdini works. It can manipulate any point. Particles are just points, so it can manipulate this object as well. But for now, let's just go ahead and emit some particles from that body there. And so you see if I play it, now we're just emitting particles. Not too exciting and doesn't look anything like it. We're going to end up emitting a lot more particles than that. And I believe I want to emit from the volume, not from, yeah, there we go. So they're contained within here. Cool. And if I hide this mesh, you can see how you get sort of this ghostly shape already. All right, let's go into our ice tree. So here is our emitter grid. This is with Brian on here, and then this is our, we'll just call that emitter. So you know what it is. That's the mesh that we're emitting from, and this is our point cloud. So I'm going to Alt F9, open that up. This is ice. If you've ever used any kind of shading tree before, it's very similar to that. And I'm going to delete the simulation root, and we're just going to run it straight into the ice tree. And there's our simulate node. This is a simulated ice tree. You can see here, this is the point cloud. And the way Softimage works is everything starts at the bottom and works its way up. So first you model something, then you can shape model it. Then it's animated. Now we're into simulation. Then you can do something after the simulation and even after that. And so it's evaluated all the way up. If I actually click on my object here, I don't think I've frozen it yet. So here you can see there's all the proportional modeling I did. I can actually delete any of those and undo things. And here is actually where I created the geometry. So that's the sphere being created. It's all live still. So until I freeze the mesh, all of that's live. It's great, but it's also going to slow me down. So I'm going to actually go ahead and freeze this mesh. And we still got particles being emitted. So let's go back to our point cloud, go to the ice tree. All right, so you can see here's the emitter. Get emitter is actually this. So let me rename that just so you see. And let's call it Brian shape, just so you can be clear. So there's Brian shape. It gets the Brian shape and it emits particles from it. And this is the simulator. Now, we need to actually use some fluid tools. These are from Eric Moots from mootzoid.com, and these are really awesome tools for doing fluid simulations. I'm not going to do a full fluid simulation, so it's not going to be fire and all that stuff, but it is going to be some velocity. So what I need to do first is actually go in and let it know that it is a fluid. So I'm going to emit a type when it's emitted. It's basically initializing it. And I'm telling it it's not smoke, fire, or waste. It's just a fluid. All right, and it turns red because there's no fluid system actually in the ice tree. So what I need to do is go grab Explode Me, which is a cool way to package things up. Basically, you have this huge compound all contained in here. I'm going to explode the compound, and then you get this giant mess. And let me grab that and get it out of the way. So here you go. What you have is, this is the fluid system, and some of these aren't going to actually be used, but what's important is we have a solver here, and you can have a fluid box, which makes it run much faster. I'm just going to run it without a box this time, and we can get into that later. But this is what's important, is the emit data, because right now, if I plug this in, it's not really going to do anything. Although it might do something because it does have heat. And no, it's not going to do anything. So we actually need to send some data to this. So in order to do that, what I got to do is bring in a null object. So let's create a primitive null. I'm going to move it up here, and I'm going to make it a pointed box. And let's go back to wireframe so you can see it. So there's my pointed box. Now my pointed box, let's just call this wind. Oops, I gotta rename it here. Let's call it wind. So if I go into here, I still have the null selected. If I press F3, I can grab it and I can bring it in here. Now I need to emit some data from that. So we're going to emit data from this. You can see here. And what we're going to emit, we're not going to emit fuel, we're not going to emit oxygen, we're going to emit velocity. And we're going to send that right into here. Okay. So I believe, see that? You can see it up here. Let's zoom in on that so you can see. And you see that's emitting some swirls. And now that, well, let's hide this so it's a little easier to get to. Let's make that bigger and see what happens. Look at that. Isn't that cool? So that's given me some cool swirly smoke action happening. And what's nice is I can control that now. I can animate this and move it around wherever I want it to be. All right, so here's my user view again. Oh, sugar. I started to run that backwards. All right, so that's kind of a cool effect, right? Let's move that one down to the bottom and make it pretty big. Oh, that's cool. How about that? But you know what? Let's duplicate that and move it up here. And let's rotate it around 180 degrees. Point it down. And what happens if I hit play? Absolutely nothing's going to happen because this is not sending any data into the ice tree, only the first one. When I duplicated it, it created a new one called Wind 1. So if I F3, bring Wind 1 in, and I'll just grab this node, copy, paste, and I'm going to also grab that. I'm going to stick that right into here, and then if we check it again, we can look here, I guess. Go back to the beginning. Oh, look there, I guess. Now you see that? That is pretty cool. And these can be animated. Now I know it's not exactly what it looked like in the video. I had them in different places and I had them animating around. but you get the idea. So if I resize that, the size is changing the velocity. See? But that's pretty cool looking, right? Cool. All right, so we got kind of a neat looking motion there coming from our emitter. And the emitter, wherever it goes is where the particles are going to go. So we can just animate that flying towards the screen. I'm not going to do that for this because this is already pretty long, but we need something that looks like actual smoke or whatever you want to call it, not just these dots. So first, let's change the size of this. Let's randomize the size. And actually, this is kind of cool for beginners in ICE. You can do this. If I do on emission, I can say randomize size. Oops, no simulation root. Because I deleted it. Sorry. I'll have to do it the old-fashioned way. Randomize. So I want to randomize my particles on emission. I'm going to randomize the size. And we're going to do, like, let's say 0.05 to 0.1 for this and just give some random numbers. And I'm going to make it not a point shape. Let's make it a sphere. So if we go back and restart it, now you see it looks different. If we go here, you can see they're little tiny balls. See there? So that is pretty cool. So let's get some color onto this. So what we're going to do is after they're emitted, right now they're just being set as yellow. That's not cool. We're going to want something better than that. Actually, let's change that to maybe like a gray color. So you'll see if I emit or if I restart that, now they're gray. Cool. But that's still not that great. So what we're going to do is create another ice tree. And what I want to do is, along with, I believe it's emRender. It's either emRender or emFluid from Eric Moots. I'm going to be using emRender to render this. He has a, not a compound, but a test scene, a demo scene that actually includes the ability to do this. He created this specifically for Film Riot for this episode, and now it's included with his plugin when you purchase it. So really great guy, Eric Moots, and thanks to him for creating this. All right, sorry about that. So I made this into a compound. It doesn't come with his software. And to make a compound, all you do is you grab a bunch of stuff. And this is kind of a messy thing, but this is what came with it. So what I did was I just grabbed it all and I just said create compound, and then it gives you this. So let's just go back to, and then within the compound what I've done is you can expose ports, and so I exposed where I'm looking for the name of the geometry, or the name of the geometry, and then the name of the image that I want to project. So let's plug this in, and it's not going to be working yet. It's going to be red. What I need to do is go then see this not Brian shape, the grid. I want that. So I can just drag it in. I could do F3 and drag it in or not. And I want the name, and I also want this value. So now this image is going to be projected into this point cloud. Now the problem we're going to have is the point cloud, there's not enough points. So you're not going to see anything. So we need to crank the points way up. So let's go back to our first ice tree. And let's make this 100, is that 10 or 100,000? Let's see how we do. There we go. And let's turn off rotoscope so you can maybe see this a little better. So there he is. You can see him being projected right there through the wireframe. And if I resize this, now I have to go back because it has to simulate again. See his image? Isn't that cool? So again, so there's Brian's image. Let's go to the user view so I don't mess up my camera angle. All right, there. So you can see his image is there, and you can see it's being projected into, see his face there? Let's go back to wireframe. There we go. So his image is being projected from here to there, and wherever I put this, whatever size I make it, will adjust and adapt into, or in the point cloud here. So what we're going to do is hide that. I believe it works well. It's being hidden. Yes. Already you can see here how that's going to work. See, his image is just going to be floating in that cloud. So now we need to render it. And for that, I'm going to use emRPC, which is Render Point Cloud. So I need to go back into my point cloud, and I'm going to create another ice tree, and we're going to put that all the way up at the top. And I'm going to go to my renderers and another explode me compound. And I'm going to explode that compound, move it back out of here and connect that up there. Now, what this does, this is, everything ties into this, but you can set where you want it to record the images, and I'm going to call this tutorial, and just going to go right into my project path. This is the camera settings. Now this is going to set my image. It's going to get it from the current camera, but you can change it as well. This is how big the image is going to be. Right now 1024 by 576, that's fine. You're probably going to want to do larger for yours. This is my particle settings, which is the most important thing. It's where you get your color, where you get particle size, whether or not it casts shadows, all that stuff. And then here you can enable shadows, you can enable ambient occlusion or global illumination, which I'm not going to be using. So let's just see. Now, Render Point Cloud is different than other renderers like Mental Ray. Let me actually need to enable it. So let's enable. We'll turn it on, and we'll let it, we'll turn this off, and we'll write images to disk. And there, right here, that is a rendered image. So now we see what it looks like. So now I can start messing with it. So we could do some virtual points, which will fill it in a little bit. That's getting us a little bit cooler of an image. And you can see I'm rendering, I don't know how many thousands I'm rendering. What do I say, 100,000 per second? And that's pretty good. But you could see the problem we're going to run into is you can't really make out his face very well. I can increase the particle size if I want, and that will fill it in a little bit. But really the only way to get a lot to be seen is for me to really crank up the particle count. The other thing is you can change the, oops, where's my render? I want to shade it. Sorry, I want it to be, there it is, screen, just to make it a little easier for you guys to see. All right, let's go back and emit a lot more particles so you can see. It will actually, it's going to be very bright and not look correct because I'm using screen mode, but you'll see how well the image actually can be viewed, and the possibilities are just amazing with this. So now it's rendering. Yeah, there we go. What's cool with emRPC is you can render just tons of particles, and it does not take much time at all. It's shocking how good of a job it does in rendering particles. Now you see here, this is where the image has been cut off, and I can tweak that a little bit to fix the problem, but overall, it's not bad. For the final scene, I used ambient occlusion and I used shadows. I had a light that was lighting the cloud, but for this, not really that necessary. Let's drop this back down to 100,000, and we'll bump the size way up so you can see. You can get all kinds of really cool looks from this stuff just by changing the size of the particles and adding in different velocities from that. Yeah, see, this is kind of hard to see now because the particles are so big it's blurring the image. If I go into my renderer here and turn on some ambient occlusion, it's going to most likely give us some neat shadows, hopefully. Might not be enough particles for it to work. Yeah, there's not enough particles for them to be affecting each other. I could tweak that, but you see his image right there, and that's basically how it was done. I did take the final into Ion Fusion, and I took the original alpha version of him and laid it over for a few frames here and there because it's really hard. You can see here let me move my camera real close so you can see what he looks like. It's real hard to see, you know, it just is kind of a blurry thing, but it's cool because it's three-dimensional. So if I go here and go ahead a frame, so you can see this ghostly image, and as you can imagine, if I was emitting 1 million, 3, 4 million particles per second, you would have this fine mist, and you would have this character floating right in it. It's pretty cool looking. So that is basically how it was done. As I said, this is all Softimage. Honestly, if I'm a freelancer or a small studio, in my opinion, Softimage is pretty much the best value out on the market. Not only do you have things like ice, which can let you do these cool things, it can let you deform geometry and all that, but it's got Face Robot. Do a search on Face Robot. Also, it's got a compositor built in, so if I actually want to go here quickly, I know I'm going way over, but let's go to my compositing. It's got a full-blown compositor like Nuke already built into it. A lot of people don't even know that. So I've got a compositor here, and I can actually go and I could pull that that hallway, or here's the Brian image you can see that I had made, and I can then go in and tweak this here and apply that before it's rendered in 3D. So it's really slick. You have crowd effects, which is similar to Massive, if you've ever seen Massive, which is crowd simulation. But if you're a freelancer and you want to do these kind of things, I don't think you can find a better value than Softimage, because it does nearly everything Houdini can do, plus it's straight up character animation package like Maya is. Great modeling tools, all that stuff. So, all right, I'm gonna have to edit this way down. Thank you guys for watching, and thanks to Ryan for asking me to help out on this episode. It was a lot of fun. Hope you guys liked it. And if you have any questions, just post them to the YouTube page, and we'll try to answer them best we can. So, see you guys next time.
So there you go, an enormous heartfelt thank you to Paul for putting this together for you guys. Now, if you want to learn more about Paul, check out his other work. Check out fusiondigital.net. It is a fantastic site. And also, if you want to get a free copy of Softimage, you can go to this link right here. Students will get a free copy. And also, if you want to check out the plugin that he used, check this link out right here. So there you go. We'll see you on the next tutorial.